how do you play the map when the enemy dominates you early game, and how do you recover and make a comeback in the game. I recently made this video up here, which explained a concept that helps you to shut down the enemy's map and close it down. And I will repeat it very shortly. It's from an offlane perspective, where you break the enemy tower, and then you push this wave and keep this area farmed by pushing the wave and farming the camps near it. And whenever you have time for it, or you have a big ultimate cooldown, you are moving across the map by either TPing or using a twin gate or rotating mid lane, and you take a fight. And after any engagement, you return back to this area and close it down. If this is done well, it can lead to you being able to hold this line where the enemy tier 2 tower is. And then if you break the enemy tier 1 mid lane, the line goes like this and like this, because you cannot enter triangle, and bottom is probably still standing because you are focusing on top. But it means that you have a huge area of the map to yourself, and the enemy is stuck with very few camps on the side and with the triangle. So what's happening if you are at the receiving end of this? Let's assume so. So we are looking from the offlane perspective again, even though this is important for every role. And let's say your safe lane has lost its lane, and this area is basically shut down, and it's always pushed in, and there's a strong enemy offlaner down here. This often means that the supports are free to roam around, maybe winning mid lane as well, so you lost your T2 as well, and the map is looking just like that. So what can you do in a situation like this? The first obvious thing is, obvious, it's hard to execute, but it's the main thing is to not feed. So the worst thing that can happen is that you start chain feeding, and it leaves free space for the enemy and gives them kills. And you do this by playing very passively. And as an offlaner, you would go back to these two camps and farm them, and when the enemy wave is near your tower, then you go push this wave. So you need to imagine that your map is very restricted, and you just need to be very disciplined with not moving across lines that you shouldn't be moving across. So one of these lines could be this line. And it just means that you cannot farm at the enemy tier 1. That's probably still standing because you're losing the early game. Because this is a spot where the enemy can TP. As I said before, your enemy offlaner, all he wants to do is play here and then wait for an opportunity to rotate around the map. And having somebody play here and then being corped by a support, and he just wants to TP and kill you. So he's like ready for a rotation. So what you need to do is stay passive and in a disciplined manner behind this lane, farming the wave under tower, and in between go for these two camps. As the safe lane, you want to do basically the same thing in this side of the map. You're going to go for these two camps and then farm the wave under tower here. As a support, it is important to get out some wards that help you play the map. So this means that I don't want to see only defensive wards. So I'm gonna draw this again. So this is your map right now, right? And like some defensive wards would be here, so that you can have vision of this area, or that you can have vision of this area. And this is nice, but this means that you can only see the enemy when he's already like in your space. What you would like to do is get some vision that maybe catches an enemy farming here, or that catches an enemy farming back here. See some mid lane rotations maybe. So try to find a moment where you can leave your part of the map, because the enemy is clumped at one spot, and then you can ward and deward somewhere else. The reason this is important is because if I see an enemy farming here, I can anticipate whether it is safe for me to go take this wave, and maybe I see him walking back, I can go one wave further, and it just gives the possibility for just this little bit more farm that you really importantly need. Let's summarize this first point. The first point is to be strict and disciplined about the invisible lines that are on the map and that you shouldn't cross. If the enemy has a bit more freedom, they are winning right now, so they can maybe do mistakes that can be forgiven because they are so far ahead, but this is not the case for you. So the more you lose, the stricter you have to play, because every mistake will be punished by a strong enemy. The next thing that you want to do is you want to think about how you can open out the map. So this is not a map state that can go on forever. If it just stays like this, you're eventually going to lose the game, because they just outfarm you immensely, and you will not be able to hold the high ground or like hold their push into you. So what you want to do is find opportunities that isolate a hero, and there are different approaches to this. One approach is to find the enemy carry with the smoke, or like in general, smoke is like the first approach, to group up and smoke where the enemy doesn't have vision. And then with the smoke you are allowed to leave this area and find a single kill and then retreat. It is important to not get baited into like big team fights. You're happy about every single trade-off right now and every single kill, so it is safest to jump somebody and then immediately leave the vicinity. What this also does is, let's think of an example. Let's say you smoke in your triangle and you actually manage to kill the enemy carry under the tier 1, right? So you could be now tempted to take the tier 1 tower, and let's say the tier 1 tower is like 100 HP. Sure, you can try, but in the time that you kill the enemy carry, it is very likely that they are rotating right now. As I said before, there's a strong offlaner, probably a strong mid laner, that is just trying to find some kills, because like they don't want to farm, they want to kill and close the map. So after the kill, they will respond to this. But this is very good. If you can get out after the kill and firstly retreat behind your lane, it means that the enemy is clumped at one spot and there's space opening up somewhere else on the map. So the line that we're seeing right now is actually more something like this. Something like this. Because let's say the all TP bottom right now means there are 5 people here. So there's time for like 1 or 2 waves to be pushed. Also an ideal time for support to leave the vicinity here and go somewhere else and ward. Like start dewarding the jungle. Maybe put a ward here so that you can spot them if they go to engage. Let me summarize again. Those are 2 points. The first point is to smoke and find a kill and then get out immediately afterwards. Because you don't want to get baited into big fights. Not yet, at least. You're still behind. And then after this move, if the enemy is clumping together, and this very often happens in response, is to now try to open the map by finally pushing waves a bit further out than these lines, right? And placing wards. Your highest priority will still be your farm, so it is important to get on track with your items and actually hit some decent timings. Now, the second approach is if the game is a bit more even, and let's say you have also taken the tier 1 tower and they don't actually have it, is to aggressively push one wave and keep it pushed. So this is what like the ideal plan is for the offlane, for example, to have this wave pushed and keep it up here and farm the area around. You probably don't have the space to just freely farm around here, but you will make sure that somebody has to be down here at all times. And connecting from this point to your tier 2 is very difficult, and the reason this is important is the following. If this tier 1 is still standing and you have an enemy carry farming around here, they can easily walk from their camps that they're farming or the wave to Twin Gate and then connect to whatever is happening top, for example. Or the other way around with the TP from somewhere else to the lane. But if whoever is responding to this wave is down here and there's a fight happening on the top lane, they don't really have any way to connect to this. Like, they can maybe TP top, but this is a wasted TP and they need to walk still quite a while. And if they win in Twin Gate, it's also a very long way. So it makes it so that there's more room for you to find a fight that is going to be in your favor because some of their heroes cannot connect to it. So maybe I should say this in general, like keeping waves pushed is the most important thing in Dota, period. I think this is actually true. Like keeping waves pushed is just um, well, that's basically Dota. If you push waves better than your enemy, you will be very likely to win that game. And if you manage in a losing game to kill these waves and have some lanes kind of pushed, this is very, very good because it does open map space for you. If you see the enemy offlaner farming here and the enemy carry farming here, it's very likely that you can take some camps here, maybe even some camps here. And this line that I draw earlier, that I'm going to draw a lot, is also more open, and it doesn't look like this, but it looks maybe like this actually, because there's a wave down here. Third and final situation is lane splitting or wave cutting. This doesn't work with every hero and doesn't work in every state, but there are some supports that can do it, like Bad Rider or Enchantress, or not Enchantress, maybe Enchantress with a creep, but I'm thinking Hoodwink and Treant. And there are some cores that can do it, especially mobile cores, maybe an Anti-Mage with a Battle Fury, maybe an Earth Spirit mid, maybe a Storm Spirit. And the idea is that you sneak on the outer skirts of the map and then you cut a wave in the very back, maybe here. So while the enemy is probably in this area, like here, this is where they're moving, you're like even behind their lines and you cut the waves. And this again is about keeping the waves pushed. It gives the hero who does it farm and space. So eventually they're going to chase for the hero, and it opens up the map where this line now is again opened up a little bit. And if you do it really well, it can open up the map like this, because they all respond and you can push the other lanes. Especially because one wave is already pushed, the wave which is cut by the hero. So let me finally summarize the points I was trying to make. The first point was to play disciplined behind your lines and do not cross them if you can't, because enemies will punish your mistakes. So revert to these camps. Doesn't feel good, but it is what it is, and farm enemy waves under your tower. For a mid laner, by the way, I didn't talk about mid lane yet. This means that often you cannot farm these camps unless you know they don't have vision there, and you farm the wave here under your 2/2, and try to play in the triangle, getting ancients, small camp. But I digress. First point, play behind your line actually. Do me a favor. And the next point is try to open a map. And there were three ideas to do this. The first is the smoke play, where you leave your side of the map smoked so they cannot see you, and then catch one kill and then immediately leave. And then when they respond, you try to open the map on the other side of the map. This, by the way, also works if you get a kill top, obviously, and they try to come here, and then you can open up this part. The next idea is to keep one wave pushed all the time. Can be either wave at this point. If you're losing, it's more likely to be your off lane into the enemy safe lane that you're pushing. But if they're like playing bottom, then you can just do it with top. Just more unlikely to happen. And the third idea is to cut the lanes behind enemy lines. The enemy playing here, and you are like behind the enemy lines with a hero that can cut waves and hopefully escape and buy some time and space. Okay, so now that we didn't feed and we stood behind our lines and we found some solo pickoffs and we avoided like 5-on-5 team fights, we kind of slowly get back into the game because we hit certain item timings. This is the next important point. The that you shouldn't do any shenanigans if you are close to an important item. If you, for example, lose the early game really hard, and the item that you need is a blink dagger, then you just need to wait until you get a blink dagger, even if it's 3, 4, or 5 minutes later than it usually would be. This is very common for me as an offlaner when I hardly lose my lane. I just need to make the sad move of going, honestly, you don't farm that fast, so often it's like this one camp, one wave on a tower, one camp, one wave on a tower. And eventually you will have your item, and then you can play, and not before. Or if you are about to hit a BKB timing on a carry, you don't want to jump into a fight where you know that you're like 500 gold away from BKB. Just chill, and if your team wants to feed, let them do that. You need your BKB. You're gonna wait for this. So don't underestimate game-changing items. They are supposed to change the game, so do wait for them, even if it takes a little longer than usual. Now it is important to keep the state of the map by basically prioritizing your farm still and only pick good fights. So there's no hunting kills, there's just getting a kill, actually deleting someone from the map, and then again getting out. And this is a mindset that you should have until you are actually able, or you feel like you can 5-on-5 the enemy. There are exceptions to this, obviously. Let's say you are in a losing game, but you have Enigma Blink, and he's about to finish the BKB, and this is maybe where you want to take a 5-on-5, even though you are behind, because it's just such an overpowering spell. But usually, even with big cooldowns, what you want to do is look for these solo pickoffs and slowly equalize the gold lead. And if you successfully do so, you will eventually have the map split more like, well, something like this, where the enemy is still able to play your top side, but you finally gain some space on their bottom side. And now we're back in an even game that you can play kinda like normal. Let's talk Roche. Roche is often a big comeback potential, because when they are far ahead, they might go Roche while all of you are up, and just feel confident enough to do it. And if you catch them going Roche without them knowing, it sometimes enables a very good jump. So this is a message for our support players to keep Roche in mind and think about warding the area if you can. It's not worth dying for. But yeah, Roche can often be potential to come back. And it's also often a tipping point where you cannot come back anymore. Because like Roche can be the point where if they get it, they will just go high ground and delete 2 of your racks, and coming back from that is extremely difficult and unlikely. Or it can mean you deny their ages, maybe even halfway win the fight, and are able to keep playing. So Roche is a big thing. Keep in mind when it's happening. It's something that you can also try to anticipate, like when would I go Roche right now? And often it is when either like they're all missing for a while, you should kind of get suspicious and you can use the scan. Or when they like deleted some other buildings. For me, when I'm like in a winning position, what I want to do as an offlaner, but also as a mid laner actually, is kill this tier 2 and kill this tier 2. And at this point, there's like nothing to get on this side of the map, so you just take Roche. And this is something that you can look out for. And then just don't blindly jump Roche. Like if you have nothing that is helpful with Roche, it's not really sensible to jump. If you have like, I don't know, Underlord and Lifestealer, not a good Roche jump. But if you have Sand King Epicenter into Invoker Cataclysm, I don't know. Final summary. First, play strict or disciplined behind your lines. Second is open the map. Third, if you do manage to open the map, prio on farm, get those juicy items that will change the game, equalize the map. And what point did I have? Keep Roshan in mind, I guess. I hope it kind of helped in some capacity, and you could learn something. And yeah, I would love you to join me on my Discord. I do offer coaching. If you want to have some, hit me up. And I'm gonna hope that I'm not getting a bad cough, because I'm starting to feel it. And I hope y'all are having a good start in this in the fall, autumn, if you have that wherever you live. See you in the next round.
What a tune!